Did you know that by being a customer of a cooperative, you are also considered a member of the cooperative? You might be thinking, why would I want to be a member of a cooperative? What's in it for me? And I'm here to tell you, it's a great way to get the best broadband and phone service around. Not only will you get access to quality products and superior customer service, but you can also earn cash on the money you spend each month, attend the annual meeting, and even run for the board of directors. Let's go back to the earning cash part. Earning cash is easy. Just pay your bill every month and you will earn capital credits. Those capital credits accumulate in your account year by year and can one day equal cash in your pocket. Each year, your cooperative goes through a capital credit cycle. They keep track of how much money each of their customers spend on services. Then the board of directors must decide on how to spend any profits the cooperative earned over the prior year. Usually, they reinvest most of the profits or margins back into the company. That's how your cooperative can grow and improve services year after year. Any excess funds are allocated back to the members, and you are notified of those amounts in your allocation statement. During very good years, sometimes the company makes more money than is needed for growing the business, and that allows the board to retire capital credits back to the members. When this happens, if you were a member of the cooperative the year that's being retired, you will receive a check. Now, I know this can sound a little bit confusing, so I'm going to provide an example. Let's pretend there's a small business that decided to operate as a cooperative. While this doesn't make practical sense, it's a great way to explain the process of allocating and retiring capital credits. For our example, we are going to use Lenny's Lemonade Cooperative. At Lenny's, customers pay $3 for a large glass of lemonade. During the year 2015, Lenny kept track of how much money each customer spent on lemonade. He had a total of 100 customers in 2015. That year, Lenny had revenues of $20,000 and his expenses were $15,000. This gave him a margin of $5,000. He and his board of directors, who happened to be some of his best customers, determined that next year his expenses might go up. Those lemons seemed to be getting more expensive every year. So he didn't pay out to his members the excess revenues or margins. Instead, he allocated the margins to his members with the plan to retire or pay them out in the future. Let's meet a couple of his customers to see how this plan affects them. Meet Betty. In 2015, she spent $200 on lemonade. However, her neighbor John believes a glass of lemonade a day keeps the doctor away, and he spent $1,000. Since we need to calculate how many capital credits they've earned, we need to calculate how much of the total revenue of $20,000 they contributed. Based on this calculation, Betty contributed 1% of the total revenue and John contributed 5%. Next, we need to figure out how much of the profit margin gets allocated to each customer. As I shared earlier, we need to deduct the expenses from the revenues to get the net margin. That leaves us with $5,000. We calculate how much each member gets by using that same percentage we calculated earlier and multiplying that by the margin. Now we can see that Betty has earned $50 and John has earned $250. Neither of these customers will receive this money this year though. The board met and they determined they really needed that $5,000 in profits to grow their business into next year and voted to not retire any capital credits. Since the profit margins are not going to be retired this year, those numbers are kept in the record books for a future year. Now let's jump forward to 2022. The lemonade business is booming, and Lenny has had a few great years. He now has 200 customers, multiple stand locations, and it seems like people are choosing lemonade over soda. Betty is still a dedicated customer and spent $250 in lemonade, and Julie, who happened to have bought John's house when he moved away, spent $750. Lenny's revenues have shot up, so in 2021 he made $50,000. His expenses this past year were $34,000, which gave him a margin of $16,000. Let's see how that affects our two customers. Betty's $250 worth of sales equates 0.5% of total revenues, while Julie contributed 1.5%. Next, we need to calculate how much of the margin each customer's earned, so we multiply those percentages that were calculated by the profit margin. You can see that of the $16,000 profit margin, Betty earned $80 and Julie earned $240. The board then determines to allocate that amount to each of their customers. Since it was such a good year, the board decides it's time to retire some of their margins, and they decide to retire from 2015 and 2021. They decide to carry over $7,000 of the revenue for improvements in the business during the next year. $5,000 of it to retire the allocated margins from 2015, and $4,000 to retire a quarter of the margins from 2021. This results in payments to Betty, John, and Julie. The amount each person gets is based on how much they contributed to the revenues in that year. So Betty has been a customer the longest, and she will get a payment for both years they are retiring margins. Even though John was not a customer in 2021, and he doesn't even live in the area anymore, he was a customer in 2015, and he still gets his payment from that time. You will also note that even though Julie has spent more money on lemonade this year than Betty did, she didn't get as large of a check as Betty did. Betty was a customer early on, when the amount she spent was a bigger percentage of the total revenues for the business. Once a year has been fully paid out, it is removed from the books. If only a partial amount was paid out, the remaining balance stays on the books until the next capital credit retirement for that year. As you can see, being a customer of a cooperative can have some really nice benefits, including capital credits. We want to be sure you understand the advantages of being a cooperative member, so please don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions. Contact us today to learn more about the benefits of being a member of your local cooperative.